Hello there. I'm Scotty Arnott, and welcome back to my journey through Dark Castle Entertainment. And we're on the fourth picture. That's this ghost ship. I want to see them, and I want to pick up. This is a ghost ship. I'm thinking Gothika, starring Holly Berry, Robert Downey Jr., Charles S. Dutton, the brother from the Drew Carey Show, Penelope Cruz. Holly Berry stars as Dr. Miranda Gray, a psychiatrist at a female's psychiatric hospital who, after one night driving home, witnesses a ghost and wakes up 3 days later and is told that she has murdered her husband and is now there for psychiatric treatment. And now it leads to a mystery of trying to figure out what was actually going on. Not who murdered her husband, because, spoiler alert, it's not really a mystery. That's not really a spoiler either, but yeah. So you think that this movie would be about trying to figure out who actually killed the husband, and it is partially that. I mean, they do sort of make you think that it might not be her. Of course, if you've ever seen any kind of psychological thriller, you know that there's a mystery type of movie. You know there's a chance. You know that they're gonna try to give you hints, stuff like that. But this was interesting. This is one of the movies that my great grandmother had. I got her stuff when she passed away. Movies. I never watched this one. I think I got rid of it. I never watched it. Didn't really care for it. Didn't throw me. But now I have to watch it for this, and I'll say it's not bad. It's not as frustrating as 13 Ghosts was for me when I went back and rewatched that. This one, it's interesting. Robert Downey Jr. is in this, and all I keep hearing and seeing is Iron Man, Tony Stark. That's it. Just how he talks, how he moves, how he holds his head, and mannerisms. It's all Tony Stark. Which is not a very good impression. I don't really have one other than that man's playing Gallagher. Thought we wouldn't notice. We did. But, yeah, I don't know. It's just basically that. So we meet Miranda. She's a psychiatrist. She's talking to Penelope Cruz, who has had something happen to her. She's been assaulted, I think, but she doesn't know by who. I think that's what it is. And she's kind of been driven a little insane. It's the hospital is not. The psychiatric hospital does not follow a decent procedure. They just keep giving the patients drugs and think that will help them. Whoever wrote this doesn't understand psychiatrists. Now, the conversations Miranda has with the client, which is only client is her, is not trying to help her. And every time she tries to put together a psychological profile, it feels like later she's talking to the sheriff about the psychological profile of a killer. All this stuff that she says is like pulling it out of her ass. Well, you see, he had to have grown up in a broken household. Father probably died when he was younger. Raised by his mother, and when he grew up, he was confused by his sexuality, and also when he was a kid, he probably mutilated animals. They're like, okay, so, what year did this come out in, by the way? I think it's before, hold on. 2003. So it was before Rob Zombie's Halloween. She came out in 2007, which gave us a depiction of Michael Myers that when he was a kid, he did in fact mutilate animals. And a lot of times they do say that people with murderous tendencies will mutilate animals is sort of a sign. But to just say that because this guy's a murderer, that's what happened, I don't know. And every time she tries to put together a psychological profile, it's like, no, you're not. You have no facts. You're just guessing. Like, everything she says to the sheriff is just a guess. She just so happens to be right. except for the mutilating animal stuff. I don't know. Excuse me. So we see that she has a full night ahead of her, I guess. She says goodbye to her husband, who says he has other work to do. And then she takes off. They have a smooch. Well, she tries to smooch him. He tries to eat her face. Charles has Dutton. He's going, nom, nom, nom. He's like, I'll get one kiss with Holly Berry. I'm going to make the best of it. Nom, 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 nom. So, yeah. Then he leaves, and she goes to have a swim at a pool in a psychiatric hospital. Okay. I don't know what that's doing there, but it's implied it's in the hospital. And we see that she's also good friends with the security guard guy, and Robert Downey Jr. wants to fuck her. Oh, I'm sorry. Pete, the character. Not Robert Downey Jr. himself. I mean, it is Halle Berry, but we see that he wants to, yeah, he has a thing for her. He even talks about his date, how he went out with her, they had drinks, they had nothing compatible, so he took off. And then happens to walk her to her car. Keep in mind, she's married to his boss. So, yeah. Again, though, I think this is supposed to be a whole thing. I think Robert Downey Jr. is supposed to be a red herring. But it's not done well enough for you to ever think that. There are moments where you kind of may think, because every time she tries to tell him something, he turns it around on her, and throws it away and ignores it. But I don't know. But while driving home, she happens to see a woman in the middle of the road. I think she's on fire or something. I don't know. And she almost hits her and she conks out. She wakes up in a holding cell and she's told by Pete that it's 3 days later. And she doesn't understand why she's in the psychiatric hospital, like the cell, what's going on. And he explains that she murdered her husband. Supposedly murdered her husband. And so they put her in a psychiatric hospital. Why isn't she in jail? Something about holding her there for a few days until they get confirmation of moving. I don't know. It's a cockamamie reason it's a stupid reason just to have her stay there, I guess. Again, though, you could also insinuate that Pete got it arranged so that she didn't get away in case she saw something. But again, I'm not spoiling anything here, but Pete's not like the killer. In fact, we do find confirmation later it was technically Miranda that killed her husband. Technically. But yeah, she also starts seeing this ghost of this girl, who we later find out is the daughter of the head of medicine, I guess. But she's like attacked in this shower scene where that's how I think I'm actually nudity. I'm like, what nudity is in this? It's a shower scene where naked women don't really seem much. Everything is like from afar. You don't see Halle Berry. This isn't Swordfish. You want a topless Halle Berry? Watch Swordfish. Okay? There's your tip. Go watch that movie. Anyway, so she freaks out. This next scene makes no sense to me. So she is attacked by this ghost on her arm. And they say that she was slashed 23 times on her arm. Or I think it was 23 times on her arm. And they're like, well, with what? Well, probably a scalpel. Don't know how it got there, though. Probably. And you say something like, oh, probably this. That means you actually don't know. Probably a scalpel. So if it's probably a scalpel, where's the scalpel? We never see a weapon. And she did it to herself. There are witnesses there. There's at no point did they talk to any of the women that was in there. No. And then the nurse in charge is like, I look away for 1 second, and she did it. And then that happened. And they're like, it's not your fault. And I'm like, what? Unacceptable. She says about herself. I'm like, what is this nurse? So she begins to have visions now from this ghost girl showing her a guy with a tattoo with a woman that's on fire. I don't know. Eventually, she escapes with the help of the security guard that she was friends with, and she runs off. And she goes to her home, which is the first place cops would look for you. But she goes there, she starts, there's not alone. Okay, so, forgot to mention. So, there's a point where she's sitting there in an interrogation room. She got her arm wrapped, and she's looking through the papers, and her arm starts to hurt. So she unwraps it, starts to bleed. She unwraps it, and the cuts spill out, not alone. And then she just so happens at this time to see a picture of blood written on the wall, not alone, which also incriminates her. But it's now fast forwarding to when she goes to the house. This is where she has the vision confirming that she was the one who technically killed her husband, albeit possessed by the ghost girl to do it. Why? Are you ready for this twist? It turns out her husband, she goes to this farmhouse there. This farmhouse that her husband owns. And when she goes there, she finds a setup similar to the movie Barbarian, where there's a room with chains on the bed and a camera pointed, and she watches some video, and it's her husband assaulting a woman sexually. Yes. He was sexually assaulting women and then murdering them. Some guy. So his business he had to get to was not... Yeah. And while there, she finds another victim. Just so happens that a cop shows up just as she finds the victim. And they still believe she did it. They didn't talk to this victim. Say no, she wasn't there. It was her husband. But she did kill her husband, so there's still that. And remember that she did kill her husband, technically. It was her body that did it, technically. I should mention that she also gets along with Chloe, that's Penelope Cruz's character. They're having issues, and then, she's talking to her. At one point, she sees her getting attacked by the person with the tattoo. We only see the tattoo on the chest for some reason. And by the way, a lot of this stuff happens. The only time that we see camera view is when she's being thrown around violently and they think she's trying to commit suicide. Like, the only time they look at these cameras is when when she's... I don't know. She tries to tell Pete what's going on, and he flat out says, "I don't believe in ghosts." But then looks up the tattoo on the internet, not that it does anything. I feel like Robert Downey Jr. should have been involved more in the climax, but there's not a lot. So she's sitting there, and the sheriff shows up, and they have a conversation. A conversation that as soon as they start having this conversation, you start to realize, oh, the sheriff is in on it. They tell you several times that the husband and the sheriff were best friends. Knew each other for a long time. Obviously, yeah. And so it is, revealed he is the killer. But they gotta go over the top revealing it. So, if it wasn't obvious by the guy's acting that he was the other killer, he then opens up his shirt to show her the tattoo. She screams, "No!" And then he screams, "Yes! We get it! It's him! You don't need to spell it out so much. You don't need..." It's like... I don't know. It's like if in Seven, when the photographer walks by them, he just turns around and goes, "By the way, I'm the killer!" And then runs away. And they still... I mean, come on. But spoiler alert for Seven. It's... Sorry. Anyway, so yeah, there's a chase scene, and then it leads to the ghost showing up and setting him on fire because she turns on the gas, and he fires a gunshot the first time at the glass, which shatters, and then fires another shot, which lights him on fire. I don't think it would light him on fire, but I can think that the ghost did it, really. She fires another shot, killing him, but that doesn't set anything on fire. I'm talking about Miranda. And then Robert Downey Jr. shows up, now believing her. And we cut to she and Penelope Cruz are now both out of the institution, walking around and acting like friends. And it's a happy ending, except she killed her husband. They have proof. They're not, no one in their right mind is going to believe a ghost possessed me to kill my husband. Why is she out and about? She still technically killed her husband. I know they kind of wanted a happy ending, but it makes no sense that she's now, after all this, the sheriff's dead. Unless she somehow convinced them that the sheriff killed her husband. But we never see that. All the evidence pointed to her. There's no... I want to believe that in the original script it wasn't her, but they wanted to... I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. She killed her husband. She knows that she did it technically. She was made to do it by a ghost. She was possessed to do it by a ghost. But come on. She still did it. And there would be no evidence saying she didn't. Even with the sheriff. And even with this, it still looks like she just set the sheriff on fire. Where's the proof that he's in on it? Because Robert Downey Jr. said so? Come on. I guess maybe there's camera footage in there somewhere of him chasing her. Which, by the way, why is there no security guards? Were they not watching the monitors here? I don't know. As soon as he attacked her and pushed her to the wall, security guards should have been flooding that area to stop him. But no. It's complicated. I'm gonna give it a middle of the road, but a very low middle of the road. Like low. Just inching towards not worth your time, but it's not that bad. I don't know. It may be one of those that I need to watch again and again, but it's fine. And I want to talk about one more thing before I go. Mr. Gigi. I watched his review again, and he says when they find the victim, he's trying to figure out how long she's been down there, and he seems to think that she's been down there since the husband died. And so she's been down there. So Holly Berry was in catatonic for 3 days, and he says it's been about estimation 3 more days, which, okay, I'll set that. And that she's been down there for 6 days without nourishment. Alright. But with the reveal that there's a second killer, which, by the way, they can't make up their mind what not alone means. First of all, not alone means that she wasn't the only victim. And then it's like, no, not alone means that the husband wasn't killing alone. So with the reveal that there's a second killer, how do we know that the sheriff wasn't still carrying out the stuff? I know he makes a claim that he wasn't able to clean things up because he wanted to rush into it, but for all we know, he was still doing that. And also, the husband was murdered. They obviously searched through his house for anything. Normally when someone dies or is murdered, they try to check all the places that person owned. Don't you think that farmhouse would be somewhere they would check for evidence? Shouldn't they have found that by then? And how did they find her there? The cop just shows up. Which means either they went to the house and she wasn't there and found the picture and went there or something. I don't know. It's confusing. But I don't know either way if she was there for 6 days after the husband died and the sheriff just left her. Again, I gotta think if the sheriff is in on it, he wouldn't just leave that person there. She could escape and get out. But again, like he said, he didn't want to go back and be hasty, but still, I don't know. I don't know. She could have been there for those 6 days. Sure. Should be now there's almost a week. You can survive for 2 weeks before you dehydrate. I guess. Well, not really. How long did old Fred last on the top of that phone thing before he died in tremors? 3 days? I don't know. Maybe the 6 days. I don't know. But it is whatever it is. So, what are your thoughts on Gothica? Let me know below. Like, share, subscribe. Thank you for watching. I've been Scotty. I want to do more today. I still want to do at least one more before I go to bed. Go to sleep tonight. It's 4 o'clock, almost 4:30 Central Time. Did you know it was daylight savings time? I had no idea. I woke up this morning and it said it was almost 9. But then when I turned on my Roku TV, it said it was almost 8. And I'm like, wait, what? And then magically, it was 8:30. I went in the bathroom to have a sit down, come back out, and that said 7:30. I'm like, wait, what? Why did that change? What? I don't know. But maybe it tried to change by itself. Who knows? But it was wrong. It went back instead of forward. Anyway, thank you for watching. I'm Scotty, and I'll see you in the next one.